So we have with us again today a regular, Tamara Shoemaker, who wears many hats, but the one that she's probably most well known for is being the founder and the director of the Cyber Patriot program here in Michigan. Now, she's also involved in other groups. I'll let her explain that, but let's start off with some of the questions she gave me, just so talking points, as it were. She decided this time she wanted to talk about what it really means to be a successful cybersecurity professional. So let's delve into that, shall we, Tamara?
Sure. I mean, I wanted to, instead of just talk about what the Cyber Patriot program is, I wanted to sort of talk about what my inspiration was to start the Cyber Patriot program here in Michigan and what it takes to develop those professionals, right? So, I'm and we've talked about this in different ways online before, but a successful cybersecurity professional takes a long time to groom, right? It takes a long time for us to get them from deciding they want to go into this field to being able to be out there working in the field, doing the job that they need to do as a cybersecurity professional. They need technical skills, they need industry certifications, they need a degree, they need a ton of soft skills too that most folks don't think about when they think about IT, cyber, that kind of work. That you need these soft skills as well, which is, they need to be able to they need to be able to have analytical thinking. They need to be able to be problem solving. That everything isn't just a straight line. Everything doesn't come at you perfectly. You have to be able to be critical thinking. You have to be able to have communication skills so that you can talk to your crew and you can talk above and beyond and below you. All these things combined takes a minute to develop in a student, right? And so my theory has been early and often, right? Get to them as soon as we can get to them, get them inspired, because we are losing them in middle school, right? So kids in middle school are deciding what they do and don't want to do in industry. And I ran into this amazingly weird article about how we're losing them in middle school and how they take these in middle school. They take these tests, right, that tell what kind of skills they have and what kind of abilities they have. And so um, it was surprisingly the gap between when they have the ability to do it and their interest to do it was ridiculous. So 28% of students who have an aptitude for health science have no interest in it whatsoever.
Hmm.
24% who have an aptitude for information tech and cyber uh, have the skill, the aptitude, not interested. 18 in advanced manufacturing. So those three, I mean, and I think it was funny that article picked those three because that's Michigan: medical, cyber, IT, and manufacturing, right? Advanced manufacturing. And so our workforce here in Michigan is suffering as it is nationally. And so I then also wanted to look up and see, well, how many jobs are actually out there in Michigan? And I know I've thrown around like nationally and globally statistics and numbers in the 400K and 600K and that kind of stuff. And these are all published online. But I want to know, like, right here in Michigan, right? How many do we need and how fast can we get them up to speed? And keep them here in Michigan too, right? So there's also that brain drain problem that we have where they're heading to the coasts to do that. So my why, right? Why I wanted to do this is that someday, Mike, I'd like to retire. I say all the time and jokingly, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want the infrastructure to come down when I do, right? I want to make sure that there's enough kids in that pipeline that they'll be able to carry on. They'll also be our innovators. And so if they can have this cybersecurity awareness culture baked in, all the better when they start working on these innovations. I mean, it's not like we've seen anything explode on air because of some software glitches. Um, just recently over Florida, maybe, or over the water, just because of some software development issues, right? Which, if folks were trained better, they wouldn't have that problem, right? We tested it and things would have worked out a little bit differently. So there's a lot of issues out there and there's a lot of need. And that's
There's
why we're in this.
also and there's also a lot of job openings out there for people that want to get into this. I mean, Matt used the reference a couple shows ago. There's probably 4 or 5 jobs for everyone in cybersecurity, and so they can just pick whichever one they want, right?
They do. And that's also we also have the bidding wars, right, that begin on people. So what I did a little research and it looks in the United States today, just the United States, not global, not whatever. There's 1.2 million job openings in cyber right this minute open. But I thought was cool was the breakdown. So because we start to think about things that are in cyber, and people think about they don't think about all the different job categories that are in cyber. So networking, for instance, so cyber networking, keeping a network, secure. There's 168,000 jobs open in the United States right now. And also, I want to make you think about, I want industry to think about it and education to think about, who are we training for, right? What are the jobs that we're training for, and do they match what industry's looking for, right? So in networking, we have 168,000 jobs open right now in the United States. In software development, there's 597,000 jobs open in software development, right? In system engineering, there's 226,000. In risk analysis, there's 235,000. In security intelligence, which a ton of the folks tend to think that that's really the only cool, sexy cyber area, is security intelligence. I get a lot of younger kids that want to go into some of those kinds of jobs. There's only 232,000 in the entire country that we need in that space.
Hmm.
So what's coming through with research that I did is that we need the more highly technical and more advanced people. That's really where the need is. It's not in the beginning, right? So, getting that pipeline started, like IT support, there's 207,000 needed. So that gives us out 1.2 million. That's the breakdown. But it's in surprisingly different areas that we don't always think about, and at different levels. So entry level, there's they average about 85K coming out entry level. Think about that, Mike. We had a discussion last time about how kids could make a lot of money coming out of school, but that takes us to get that entry level right. That takes us 2 to 4 years at least after they're out of high school before they're ready for that, and that's with no experience, right? But right now, currently, there's 19,000 folks that we need, and they make 85,000, right, in that specific entry level. Then we get to mid-level, there's 34,000. They make 100 grand. And then when you get to the advanced level, there's 72,000. So you can see the need at the advanced level is much higher. And those are the ones that you get bidding wars for, and people are stealing each other's people, and then the prices are going up, 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 which of course I think is why there's a shortage as well, right? I mean, that's not helping, right? That piece is not helping, that there's a shortage and people are stealing from each other and that kind of thing. I mean, when I was in the autos, I watched that all the time. But the other thing is how much it takes. I mean, that's 10 years of experience, right? So 10 years from now, I'll have all those kids that are graduating will be at that level. But that's going to take 10 years of time to get them to that advanced level. And that's where we have the greatest need. So we need to do this early and often, right? As much as we can. And so many of the buckets, or so many of the knowledge, skills, and abilities things can be ticked off in middle school and high school if they just do this competition. Right? They start to get the hands-on stuff. They start to get the technical stuff. You start to make them think independently and critically, as kids, right? And so that's the reason that we're in this, right? Is to get those folks into that pipeline and get them moving up there so that we can protect ourselves.
Let's talk about what the Cyber Patriot program is. I always assume there's some people in the audience, maybe this is the first time they've heard of it. So talk about that and what it does and what it can do for even old people like us, right?
That's right. That's right. You do have a special. So it's a K through 12 STEM education done in gaming, right? So and in different ways. So from K through 5, we have a book series, and we have video games that kids can play, and they can learn how to become cyber aware and to protect themselves, and how to start using how to start actually thinking about what they're doing when they're online, right? But in a game kind of way. They're just playing. It's very, very easy and very non-scary, right? We don't want stranger danger and have them react to that. We want to make sure that we enable them to have the tools that they need. And then from 6th grade through high school is the actual competition. So middle school kids compete against middle school kids. The competition starts in October and it ends in March every year. And then people can sign up again for their team for the next year and start practicing. And then they have images that they get to use all summer long and all fall, preparing for the next season so that they're ready to go the next season. In fact, we're going into the 18th season this year, so it's pretty exciting. They will be competing against over 5,000 teams nationally. This is an international program, so they have different cyber Patriot type cyber titans and cyber things in different areas of the globe. But here in Michigan, or here in the United States, it's called Cyber Patriot. But it's in its 18th season. It's all about defense, right? So it's all about cyber defense, operating systems, and networks. And so it's really good basics for kids to learn while they're in middle school and high school. And if they do, then they can take that experience, that hands-on, that knowledge, and then run with it, right? So people who are in community college, our professors that are in community college and universities, don't have to start such low classes for them. They can start running right when they get there, and they can start actually teaching them things that are relevant to their lives immediately, and they could actually be employed much quicker.
So let me ask you a question now. When these kids come out of these high school programs, there seems to be a disconnect between the industry's needs and the value of these programs. Why do you think that is?
I, so I think that, like I said, the fact that it wasn't just the cyber that the kids were losing interest in, but medical and manufacturing and all that. All of the industries seem to have this disconnect between what they need and what's happening in the education space, right? And how we're in not just the education, but the communication about our needs, right? I mean, I know when we grew up, there was your moms wanted you to be doctors, lawyers, Indian chief. You know what I mean? You had certain things that you were setting your cap towards.
Lawyers,
It,
doctors were big, be a lawyer, be
right?
a doctor,
Correct.
lots of
Right.
money,
Lots of
so
money. Well, and I know that parents are picking up on the cyber thing too. Now they are picking up on it because I've got a lot of folks that are. I know this can make a lot of money, and I want Johnny to get involved in this, and so I want him to come to summer camp, to be involved in the cyber stuff. Um, but we are industry is not making the culture needs to change. We need to have communication. We need to have people who are advocates, right, in the schools for this kind of thing, so that and we need to make it sexier, right? So it can't, I was so upset when we lost. We had one show that was a national show that actually was about cyber stuff. And it was sort of like the NCIS kind of thing of cyber or whatever. And we had it for about, I think 2 seasons, and then they quit. But they just don't know about it enough. We need to get out there. So as professionals, that's why I ask industry professionals. I go to all of the associations for cyber people and talk to them, because I need them in the schools, right? I need them out there in the field talking to people and letting them know these are really good paying jobs, and we have lots of openings, and we need people, and we need to get them into that culture right away. So like the NSA, when we started our Center of Excellence here in Michigan at the University of Detroit, the NSA paid us to start those centers, right? And to teach the right things, so that we were teaching the right. So they were an industry partner that came in and said, these are the things that we need. This is what we're hiring. And they helped us get there. We need that in all of industry across it, right? So we need them to come in and to do that work here in the schools to get that knowledge out there and to just support us. I think the United States is one of the worst developed countries when it comes to educational support, right? I mean, and I won't ever,
unfortunate but true. Yes.
right? I mean, and we want to stay on top of things. We want to be the leaders and the best, but we're not actually supporting any of the things that are going on out there. You know,
Right.
uh, to help seed that population of folks that we need. So we need those workforces. We need them to be smart workforces, right? And we need them to be able to be coping with all the new innovation. But we're really not supporting that in the school system or helping. And so when I go out there and I'm in industry and I'm talking to these people at these meetings, I have a ton of folks who will say, "Yeah, I'll put some skin in the game. I'll become a volunteer. I'll become a mentor. I'll host a camp." At our place, and then we'll start getting these kids interested, right, in these areas. Like for instance, DTE, huge supporter. They're doing a great job. They talk about the different jobs that they have at DTE and the benefits, and they're working on that culture with them. The minute that they're exposed to these kids, they start working that, right. And it's great for them too, because when they're volunteering, they get time. And many industries do this. They give people time off to help charities, right? They get paid for the day, even though they're helping a charity. Well, when you're actually a cybersecurity department and you're helping cybersecurity kids, that's a whole lot. It feels much better to be passing on that knowledge than if you're, helping wrap gifts at Christmas, but you don't make that connection personally. We need more volunteers to do that, right? And in the industry, I got to say that the associations are very good about that. And then some companies like DTE and things across the state are helping out, but we don't have enough. It's a critical need. And especially now when schools are getting much of their budgets chopped in, all kinds of disarray is happening in the world right now.
Indeed. So, if somebody's watching this and they want to be a mentor, they want to contribute or open a summer camp or with you, how do they reach out to you to do that?
So they can go to my website, which I think you can see,
Yeah.
cyberpatriot.com, and ping on me. We're going to have our summer camps July 7th through the 11th. We're going to try to do a one in Battle Creek and one in the Metro Detroit area. I'm still looking for a venue in the Metro Detroit area. So they can get a hold of me at Tamara at MICyberpatriot.com, and I will hook them up with the process of becoming a volunteer, or the process of becoming a supporter. You can kind of pick your own kind of package, that kind of thing. We can customize whatever we need, but we really need folks to get in the game, become a cyber warrior with us, and get out there and help inspire these kids.
No.